Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. This is a meeting of the Quality and Standards Subcommittee. With me tonight are two of the other members of the subcommittee, Mr. Andrew Arnottis and Mr. John Olympio. Tonight, we will be broadcast by PBD Access TV and on Zoom. There is no public participation this evening at this subcommittee meeting. The reason that I'm going to hold off on public participation for tonight is because the subcommittee really has a lot of work to get done, and so we're going to just plow through some really big language issues with our policy. So without further ado, we're going to begin looking at the face covering policy, which would be file EBCFA. Okay, this policy was the one that we thought would be just simple to pass. Basically, wear your mask or you're not allowed on school property and you can't come to school. That would go for every student and the staff. But thankfully, the Public Health Department, Sharon Cameron and Brenda Wolf, reviewed that policy, and they came up with some really good questions. So what we have before us tonight is a draft. I'm still going to wait for a review from Brenda and Sharon to get more input, but this is to get us started on making sure that this policy is a good one and that it really does address the issues of wearing masks and face shields and all kinds of different issues that have come up. I can also say PBD is not alone. There's quite a bit of message traffic with Mass Association of School Committees surrounding that original policy. Other school districts are doing the same thing we are. They're addressing very specific issues just like us. And that policy that came out was really basically just a guideline, so we may even get some more information this week that we will need to add into this policy. So as you can see on this copy, the additions as far as trying to incorporate the materials that Sharon Cameron provided in her email, those are all in red. And if we want to go through paragraph by paragraph, we can do that. However you gentlemen would like to go through it is fine with me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. In the first paragraph, the addition of the PBD Public Health Department was made in that sentence, detailing guidance from Center for Disease Control, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and Massachusetts Department of Public Health. So we've added PBD Public Health Department in that list as well. Now, in general, the second paragraph, that first sentence really said it all, so we thought. A face covering that covers the nose and mouth must be worn by all individuals in school buildings, on school grounds, and on school transportation, even when social distancing is observed. As you can see, the sentence that was originally in the exempted from this policy as students in grade 1 and below, that's changed to conform with what Sharon Cameron brought forward. That was originally okay from DESE, but it doesn't coordinate with the CDC and the health recommendations. So if we could, we can delete that line. They also wanted to make sure that our policy was not just limited to the school day. So this next sentence kind of brings in all the other things that go along with our school programs. This policy applies to daily educational activities as well as all other school-related activities such as extracurricular activities, athletic activities, before and after school activities, and other school events. Now I know that athletics will have its own protocols and policies, but I think by including it here, it's kind of a cover-all sentence.
Yeah.
It's extending this policy into every aspect of the school programs. But if you can think of any additional examples or any language that needs to go in there, feel free.
Well, I'm just wondering whether we should basically put right in there, on the grounds of the school itself, just to encompass everything, because I know, I don't want anyone to try to mince words with the policy when the time comes, because, we have activities, but, are we talking about, when you're in a group waiting in the high school parking lot, with a group of 10 people, at your cars in the morning, that's not necessarily an activity, you're just waiting to go into the building, right? I mean, I don't know, it's just a thought, but when you're on school property,
Yeah.
you're wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Well, we could certainly maybe, add some language, absolutely, for that, because you're right, there's an example.
Right. And I'll be honest with you, one of the things that I was thinking of with athletic activities was also, depending on if the schools are allowed to go to, an away game or an away practice or something, and I'm hoping the MIAA is going to address it, but, what if you have a policy in Peabody for one rule, and then they travel to another community? Do you follow our policy, and then when in Rome? I don't know how that's going to be handled.
You would think the MIAA is going to have some set standard, right? We
Right.
don't even know what athletic's going to look like.
I know, yeah.
And
That's the thing with this, do we need to put something in there referencing the MIAA, or does that limit us to only high school activities where we have athletic activities at the middle school level? There's intramurals, I don't know.
Well, we could, maybe on just this athletic aspect where it comes to other communities that are coming in, maybe hold off until we know what that's going to look like, if that even is happening, I mean, obviously, there's going to be standards for the Peabody students as a whole, but we won't know, I think, or at least maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know, I probably should be talking into this. I don't know if what that's going to look like, whether there'll be other communities coming in and out yet. I mean, has a decision been made on that? I think that's still up in the air for the most part.
I think it is. They're going back and forth on when the season takes place and what rule. They have so many issues right now as far as, what to do with practices, what to do with teams, what to do with games. And then they have the whole other issue of wearing masks at certain sporting, with certain sports.
right.
Do you wear a mask when you're golfing? Do you have to wear a mask if you're playing soccer? I honestly don't know, and I'm sure it's going to be pretty detailed because they have so many things they have to address.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we can,
Yeah.
do you think we should just
Yeah.
circle that one? I honestly had hoped we could bring this forward tonight, but I didn't, after going through this, I don't think it will be ready tonight, to be honest.
I mean, what you have there in red now, I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I would like to add in on the grounds, but if we need to go back at any point
Oh,
and
I've got on
change
the
it.
grounds up above it, Andrew. In the very first sentence of
Oh,
that
yeah,
paragraph.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Where is that?
It says, all individuals in
Oh,
school
yeah,
buildings
thank
on
you.
school grounds. Yeah.
Perfect, yep.
Now,
Yeah.
I was just thinking about this a few minutes ago, but when we were discussing, so a face covering. Do you think we should just put mask?
Mask. I was
'Cause
thinking the
think
same thing, John.
Face covering, I don't think a scarf or a gaiter is going to be acceptable. So that might, because, I read a face covering, I'm like, oh, okay, that could be anything. I think it sounds like to me that the recommendation is, it's a face mask. I can't think of any other face covering, because then you might have a question, people might be like, well, can we wear a shield instead of a mask? So I think maybe we just use a mask.
I agree, honestly, because I think it takes the ambiguity out of it, and it's going to make it easier for the students to understand what they can and cannot wear, and it'll make it easier for the staff, so there's no arguing, on the days of school, oh, you're not supposed to wear that, and.
And if that's Sharon's, or the health department's position, I mean, I don't know, are there gaiters that are made of good I mean, that's the only thing I gotta.
Yeah.
My understanding with the gaiters, most of them are not acceptable
Right.
because it's a stretchy
Sure.
material, but there are like cotton
Okay.
ones that are not as flexible, but it's basically, a cotton thing you're lifting up. But again,
Or do we put in the policy, okay, we could keep face covering language, but do we put things that aren't acceptable, like gaiters that are made out of?
Actually, so I don't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt
oh,
you.
no.
If you flip over the page, right at the very top,
Yeah.
that paragraph, I added in some of the language from Sharon,
Yeah.
and then also tried to work in the conditions she has. But I felt the same way, like, we need a definition of what
Yeah.
is a mask, because,
Yeah, because you'd be surprised, there'd be people that
yeah,
that
this,
think that, okay, the gaiter is fine, and they wouldn't,
Right.
even if it was made out of cloth. There's some people that might argue, well, no, you can't
yep,
get
see,
any.
even here, like masks with the exhalation valve or vent are not sufficiently safe.
Right, but I would say.
We probably need to highlight this, like, face coverings equals a mask of,
Right,
you know,
I just
such
think, right, I think the policy,
design.
maybe we, a little bit down the road, we be more clear, like this is saying it's not sufficiently safe for use per CDC recommendations.
Mhm.
Well, as we talked about before, maybe some cities and towns, they kind of cherry pick what they want to follow with CDC guidelines. Us as a district, maybe we just say, no mask with valves. I mean, that's it. And,
absolutely.
we
Yeah.
could maybe put in the policy leave that sentence in to kind of give people where we're coming from. But I think probably should be a little bit more explicit with what we're going to allow and what we're not going to allow.
What I'm hoping we ultimately end up with when school is about to start, hopefully whether it comes from the superintendent's office or from the building principals, whether they create one on their own with whatever our policy is. But I would love to see okay, this is acceptable,
Right.
this is not, with bullet points, there's no ambiguity, which I'd be perfectly comfortable with changing face coverings just to mask and make it mask or nothing, frankly, but.
Yeah, I
yeah.
can't.
I think they used that term as a coverall.
Yeah.
And because they did speak about the face shields,
Yeah.
and even the issue of the face shields, I looked up
Under, yeah.
something, and that was why I put in there, face masks must cover the nose and mouth and extend to the chin to aid with source control.
Yeah.
Because that was what the worry was with the shield. Even if you have a shield,
Yeah.
you're supposed to wear a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we do need more appropriate and specific terminology to give people an idea of what they can and cannot wear.
Mm-hmm.
Gaiters is another one,
Yeah.
and I guess it depends on the cloth. Like John, you were saying, like a scarf or bandanas,
Yeah.
And bandanas are a sticking point too.
Yeah.
because they're not tight under the
Yeah.
chin.
Yeah.
And they even wanted in here, you can see that, we have to be able to make sure that these are always kept clean.
And
I mean,
the district will be providing a mask for each student as well. So, I guess, if there are any issues and a parent says, well, this is what I got my student, but at least we'll have the mask to provide that.
yeah, I mean, I think one of the things might be, a lot of this was from the very beginning,
Yeah.
when people weren't sure what to do. I mean, I watched a guy go in to pick up takeout. He took his T-shirt off and wrapped it over his face.
You wanted that food?
He did.
Yeah.
He did, and he wasn't going to get in without a mask, so he took off his T-shirt and just
They'll go
kinda
right
pulled
into
it
the
down.
T-shirt.
So I'm
They'll
thinking,
pull
okay,
it,
no
yeah.
shirt, no shoes, no
Yeah,
service.
yeah.
Well, does that count as his shirt now that he's using it as a mask? And then I saw another person pull a shirt up over their nose, which was actually pretty clever. And, you know, people have been creative with trying to protect other people.
Yeah.
But I think we need some specific guidance on it, just to make sure that it's
Yeah, I mean,
easy for people to understand.
Yeah, I mean, as Andrew said, I'm okay with the language. I just, I think, yeah, as we get closer, we're gonna have to, I think it'll be for the benefit of the parents and the students and everybody, that if we did have a nice little, even within the policy, a nice little list
Yeah.
of things that are okay and maybe a couple of things that aren't okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
gaiters that are made of, you know, of
Nylon.
nylon is no, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we needed definitions.
Yeah.
section.
Oh, I would love pictures, check mark, you know, big X over what doesn't work, you know, let's make
Yeah.
it as easy for people to understand,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Did you watch the video that Dr. Vidala sent out from the first day?
I haven't, no.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you should watch it, because there is a slide with pictures, and it is that one of the things that he presented was really funny, and they use pictures to show to kids, you know, and I'm not gonna ruin the punchline. Watch it. It was funny, but yes, it was on a card. It was pictures of, you know, Tylenol, Advil. Did you take this morning? You're going home.
Yeah.
It was funny. So maybe we do need that. And it would explain it, because some people, as we said, some people use those masks with the vents,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that that's a good thing, and yet it's not.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess do we want to keep going, or do we want to change face coverings to masks, or what do we think about that?
You know what? I think if we ask
Sharon?
Yeah.
why they use
Yeah.
face coverings, maybe that's a terminology that
Yeah.
CDC is using.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, ask her that question. Yeah,
Okay.
that's-
Why is this term used?
Yeah, because, I mean,
Yeah.
people read that and they'll say, oh, we have alternatives to face masks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then, let's see what else. Okay, this next paragraph, this was something in the email from Sharon. We recommend the policy address the importance of hand hygiene before and after putting on and taking off a face covering. There are specific procedures when you put on a face mask.
Hmm.
So I'm sure I've been doing it wrong. I'm sure everybody's doing it wrong unless you're going into surgery. But there really is a specific way to do it to avoid the spread.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know how to address it. I tried in this draft that CDC recommended hand washing and cleansing procedures will be taught and encouraged for all persons subject to this policy. I know staff received a component of how to properly put on your mask and you know, how to take care of the masks,
Okay.
and it is all necessary. I don't know if the students are going to be given that direction, but I think if it's required, then we need to make sure that we do it,
Mm-hmm.
in the hopes that people will follow it.
Hmm.
So I don't know. You know, I don't know when they would take off a face covering or mask, and
Well, I think when it comes to taking it off, there's limited exemptions, you know, but even that, it's I would think it's going to be a quick instance.
Yeah.
You know, it's not
Yeah.
you're not going to have, I would say, large periods of time where anyone's in an enclosed space without one on, right?
Right.
I know, I'm thinking of the little kids too. I
Yeah,
mean, they're gonna
yeah.
be putting them on, pulling them on. Well, I mean, I've got this off now. As soon as I'm done with our
Right.
subcommittee, this will go back on, and I'm probably going to be, you know, in violation of proper protocol. I've got my hand wash with me.
Yeah.
But in a school day, I don't know how that works. I think we do need to talk to Dr. Vidala too,
Yeah.
just to ask about that.
Well, it'll probably don't, you know, take your mask off and then flip it inside out, you know, and do something like that. You know, it's
Yeah.
little things, especially if, you know, depending on the
That's
type
true.
of mask that it is, you know, I'm sure there'll
Yeah.
be features. But yeah, when, we can talk to the superintendent on that one, they might have thought of that, you know.
Yeah, because I guess it's very precise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but if we want people to do it, we need to provide that training, and we've got to make sure that we've got soap for soap and water, as well as the hand sanitizer. That's actually one of my questions for tonight, that, you know, I will be asking, aside from our policy. Okay, the other items on here were all, you know, the same as last time. I didn't change any of those. Oh, I'm sorry. Back on page 1, it's just a very small matter, but when appropriate social distancing of a minimum of 6 feet is enforced, that is something we should make sure. If we mention social distancing, the standard is the
Yeah.
minimum of 6 feet. So that's in there as well. Oh, and I also had another question, going way back up. This was a question Dr. Vidala had asked about. I put it into the policy just to hold a place, but I do think we have to find out about this. It was what to do for faculty if they're in a classroom alone. Do
Right.
they have to leave their mask on? And I had questions on that I actually do need to find out from Sharon Cameron. I requested some information. If someone's teaching all day in a classroom, if we're going to have them teaching remotely, I would imagine it's okay. But if someone's in a classroom for 10 minutes, in between classes changing or something, I wasn't sure if there's a time limit on when someone could take their mask off. So I wasn't sure if you knew anything about that or had any thoughts on it, but that was one I definitely know we're not ready to, say it straight out yet. We have to get some information on that.
Yeah, I mean, you would think if they're alone in the room, it might be okay, but I hear what you're saying. If they're in between changes and everything, I think then you're, I think, rolling into the ventilation discussion that we might end up probably having anyway. So,
Right.
I think that's a whole thing, because if you have someone who happens to be sick and they take their mask off and because there's a whole question of it's aerosol and it stays in the air and all that stuff. So, you do wonder about that. I mean, obviously, I've kept it on a little bit, but I'm sure I'll take it off, to speak at some point, but it is a lot to speak for a long period of time with one of these on, so they certainly are going to need, some opportunity as a break, and you would think in between classes, that's a reasonable time to do that, At least in some of, at the Higgins and the high school, kids come in pretty quick, in that changeover, so it's kind of tough. I mean, even if we, give the staff a 2-minute break before the kids come in or something like that. But we'll have to figure that out, how the logistics of it would work, of course.
Right.
But
Because it might even depend on the size of a classroom. I mean, here we're in a huge space. I don't even know if they can tell us, how long someone would breathe before they'd
Yeah.
fill the room. I
I
don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's 90% of it. I don't know.
It changes every hour. I know. Oh, my gosh.
But, I mean, overall, you know, we'll have to get answers on that point, and then the first question that we talked about, but I'm, you know, comfortable with 99% of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, we'll have to button down really what's our policy is going to be, even like for the face shields, because it says right here on the first page, last paragraph, that the CDC does not recommend face shields as substitutes for masks. So compliance with the face coverings is preferred at all times, preferred. But if I read that, it could leave the door open that, okay, so if I prefer to wear a face shield, because again, it's CDC, but, you know, CDC also says 3 feet, so I think we're gonna need, just come out and say that, no, that maybe face shields are not substitutes.
Oh, absolutely. I
Right.
think a mask is the standard minimum, and then anything else
Right.
people choose to wear
I
is,
mean, we could keep that language in there as CDC doesn't recommend it, but the way I read that sentence is it's preferred, but it's not saying it's a must or not.
Right. Or we could say compliance with the face coverings is, with masks, is required at all times,
Yeah.
with the exception of very specific
Yeah,
exemptions.
right.
yeah, you could say it's required excluding the above exemptions. you know?
Exactly, exactly.
Now, the only other question I have, I see here violations of this policy by, well, that's by staff, and then visitors. So is the discretion at the building principal level for this, like enforcement?
I think it is according to our general policies,
Okay,
but we could make that more specific, because that's where people may start saying, well, this teacher's enforcing it, that teacher isn't, and
and that's something we're gonna have to get into tonight as well, enforcement of all this. You know, I
Right.
think are we gonna have one person per building in charge of, you know, solely checking to make sure everyone's on the up and up? I mean,
yeah.
you know, we don't want, you know, 10 different staff members giving 10 different, you know, responses to one kid. I mean, that's
Right.
not fair to anyone, so.
Mhm. It's true. The confusion is something that could really
Yeah.
wreak havoc on the smooth operation. It is something we definitely have to talk about tonight, because it kind of goes hand in hand with, okay, if someone's not wearing a mask, you know, first you have to find out why. Okay, so somebody forgot their mask, okay, here's a mask, put your mask on. Somebody refuses to wear it, all right, you're going home. But we have to make sure that that's what the superintendent recommends.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also kind of parallels, well, all right, if someone has symptoms,
Right.
you know, that whole big discussion that we have to have about, okay, they're gonna go into an isolation room, what happens with all the people they've already exposed, blah, 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 down the line. The issue with the masks is not as involved as the process that we have to go through if someone shows up with COVID, or we find out that someone had COVID and people were exposed. But it kind of is parallel, because what do you do with those students during the day?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, do we put the kids who refuse to wear a mask while they're waiting for their parents in the isolation room? I don't know.
Outside, I mean,
I don't know. That's a thing. It's a real.
it's all logistic
Detail.
questions that we need to
Yeah.
figure out, you know?
Yeah, we need to know
unfortunately.
before school opens, because within about 3 hours after the doors open, this stuff is all going to start happening.
Yep.
You know, the law of averages prove that. So we'll have to ask Dr. Vidala on that one. All right. I'm going to put a star on that whole line. I know that in the other, the and I didn't even bring them tonight because I knew we were gonna have to spend time on this policy, but that general policy that we had with all of the like adjustments to our full policy manual that gave a lot of things to the superintendent under emergency provisions.
Right.
I do believe in there, that language is used again, violations of the policy by staff. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, that's staff.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, we've got students. I started the wrong thing. Okay. Okay. So we have to check on them with both of those.
I mean, it basically says in that kind of last paragraph, the building principal will consult with parents, guardians, to determine whether an exemption is appropriate or the student may be removed from the school building for in-person learning until such time as they can comply with the requirement or the requirement is lifted.
Mm-hmm.
So they would be removed from the building if they're refusing to put a mask on.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're happen to be showing symptoms at school, that might be a different story whether you go somewhere privately to wait. But if you're, just being difficult and refusing, basically, then you would get removed and sent home, I would expect,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we may need to be, this one, it should apply, it's on school transportation. We need something in line with that about the transportation piece too.
Yeah, bus drivers should,
Mm-hmm.
have discretion, basically, at least, making sure when students come on, they wear them and maintain them and all that, unless we're having, bus monitors or something like that, but I don't think we'll be doing that. So, we'll be asking a lot of our transportation folks, I think, too.
Right.
Okay. And actually, it does raise the question in that paragraph too, if someone before and after school activities and other school events, they'll be asked to leave the building. Yeah. So, all right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, hi, Marge. All right. Can you see anything else that we need to address on this one?
I mean, would we make mention that if, that the school department would provide a mask for a student that,
Mm-hmm. We've got one.
yeah, is that in there?
Where is that? There is something in there. Oh, yeah, top paragraph, second page.
Yeah, okay, staff members.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Yep, okay.
Because school and bus,
Yeah,
they will have the paper masks. I don't know what they call them, medical masks.
does it
To be
say,
able to
does
use.
it say in here, though, that will be provided, I mean, should we spell out that they can bring their own? Is that spelled out here? Yeah, staff, well, that's just staff members.
Yeah, because we were told students would provide their own. Staff members will be provided masks by the district if they want them, or if they prefer to bring their own, they're okay with that, as long as they're appropriate. I think, is that in?
No,
the,
so,
in the MOU, I think it's in the MOU.
okay. Oh, provided by this, okay. Oh. So, it says right, so students, on the top sentence on the first paragraph, a student's mask or face covering is provided by the student's family.
Mhm.
Well, do we make mention that if they can't, they don't have the resources for a mask? I mean, isn't the school providing masks for students that don't have the resources maybe to?
It-
Oh, yeah, we should ask the superintendent.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
John?
Yes.
In the middle of that,
Yeah,
however, the district will supply disposable face coverings for individuals who arrive at a building or board school transportation without one.
Okay, all
So
right.
I would take that as anyone,
okay.
you know,
Yep.
even a visitor, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm
Mhm,
just
yes.
Yeah.
kind of talking out
Yeah.
loud here, okay. Yep,
But I do see the distinction that John's talking about. If someone isn't going to have their own mask, every day
right,
because of the resources,
yeah.
then would we be providing it? I don't know.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah,
we're
we
gonna have to, yeah. Because even that whole issue, about who determines when a mask isn't clean
Mm-hmm.
or it's not working properly? And we,
Yeah.
Dr. Vidal, we have a new job description we need for mask monitors.
Yeah.
I know that the presentation you had for your staff had that job listed.
Yes.
Oh, that thing is great. These guys didn't see it yet, so I don't want to ruin the punchline, but if they had seen it, they'd know. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, just to bring you up, and I know you just got here, so we don't want to throw you into this, but we've been going through the adjustments, and we have more. So we're going to send it back to Sharon
Okay.
with additional questions. And I could give a quick review during the full meeting, but basically, we know we need a definition of what's an appropriate face mask. What are the requirements? Can we get rid of the word face coverings, or is that something that goes along with CDC requirements? And because it's confusing, because it opens up options to people, and they may think, well, my face is covered, and then
Right.
when you read the details, you're not allowed to wear certain things. And then,
So I think that allows the cloth gaiters versus the mask. So I think the covering was to open up to the cloth gaiters.
Okay.
Oh,
cloth,
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
mhm.
But maybe we should spell that out, cloth gaiters,
Yeah.
because,
Mhm.
Yeah, because there's all these different
Yeah.
styles now.
Well, and the other thing you can do is just cite that we're going to follow the guidance of the Department of Public Health, because in the presentation that they did yesterday, they have some really good details. And so if we put that the policy is to follow the guidance of the nurse leader in the Department of Public Health, then as things change, like the gaiters, that was a new thing that we just got, you can't wear certain ones, and they continue to update it. So you don't want to make your policy such that you can't update it.
Right,
So we
because
can
it
always
changes
default
too
to
quickly.
them and then update our guidance and the procedures to be able to follow through on that.
all right.
Okay.
We were saying, basically the less ambiguity, the better,
Right.
folks.
Yes, I think that's important.
We don't want people arguing, well, I have a gaiter, but it's made of this,
Right.
Well, I'll be honest, one of the online discussions about face coverings and masks on the MASC website was the content on the masks.
Well, that's like wearing a T-shirt, right?
Yeah, we're
Right, a
fighting that one.
T-shirt or, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, gets into that. I was explaining that we're not the only district that had problems with this policy that we all thought was just very straightforward. And there's a lot coming from other districts, so We can
Wouldn't it have been nice had there been some central agency that would have come in and said, here's a nice standard for everyone on what we use from S, but that's not the case.
Dream on. Oh, my gosh. It would make life a lot easier. Even if they'd pay for it, that would have been even better. I know. So, well, the next meeting's going to start. If there's nothing else, I'd say we can adjourn, and I'll just report it out that we're still working on this.
Yeah.
It really does need more fine tuning. And the other list of policies, they all looked okay. I had just that one it had an example in it about service animals. And I highlighted that for Sharon and Brenda and just said, can you just give some feedback on that? And also you, Dr. Vidala. But the other policies seemed very straightforward. They were more, policy administration. I think those will be ready to bring forward to the next school committee meeting. I didn't prepare them tonight because this was so much more involved. But the others are just very general, and I think they're all fine with the exception of that one.
I found the service animal comment to be a little strange because we have a service animal policy that's pretty comprehensive.
Right.
So I didn't understand where that came from.
I didn't either, and that was why I was like, can we just leave that off?
It seems strange. It seemed almost misplaced to me.
Yeah, if you're going to put one example in, then are there other examples that we aren't thinking of?
Right.
But other than that, just take it out so it is general enough that if you had issues, you'd take care of them, as they came up.
Right.
So I think that probably is going to be the answer that comes back from public health, but we'll wait on that one too, just to make sure. All right.
All right.
You want a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all right. And we will bring this forward, with, just a brief report, and then have it ready for the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.